Hello, I'm Michael Robotham and I'm here to welcome you to the annual Ned Kelly Awards, which celebrate the very best of Australian crime writing, both here and beyond, because this year, for the very first time, we have an international award. I think it's very fitting that the Australian Crime Writers Association should be taking these awards onto a global stage, because that's exactly where Australian crime writers belong. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm hosting this event from my cabana of cruelty, which my daughters have called my writing room, which sits on the land of the Garigal people, and I'd like to pay respects to elders past and present and emerging, and acknowledge that wherever you are in Australia, we're all on Aboriginal land, and we live in a wonderful country. I've been asked to MC the Ned Kelly Awards this year, which is a great honour. I spent 7 years as the chair of the Australian Crime Writers Association, which runs these awards. And in that time I watched Australian crime writing blossom. Australian crime writers began taking on the world and dominate bestseller lists, people like Leanne Moriarty and Jane Harper. But they were blazing a trail for equally brilliant young writers, like Sarah Bailey, Emma Visky, Christian White and Candice Fox. I could keep naming names. There are so many new writers out there, but you get the picture. Various descriptors are now being used to describe this new wave. Aussie noir, bush noir, outback noir, sunburn noir, even Southern Cross noir. It doesn't matter what we call it, the evidence is incontrovertible. What has changed? I think Australian crime writing has come of age. We are confidently telling our own stories, full of characters we recognise set in places that we know. And gone are the days that Americans would only read American crime fiction, Raymond Chandler and Dashiell Hammett, and the Brits would only read Agatha Christie or Arthur Conan Doyle or Ruth Rendell. Now people are happy to read books set anywhere in the world because it's story that matters, it's character that matters. This is a celebration of our very best, and it's a wonderful guide for all of those of you who love crime writing and crime reading, and you want to know more about that stinky stew of psychoses and half-baked murders and dark thoughts and superstitions that we crime writers come up with every day. It's a shame we have to do the event online, because for those of you who have ever been to a Ned Kelly Awards night, you'll realise what a collegiate, happy-go-lucky bunch of people we are. I think that's because we put our dark thoughts on the page instead of bottling them up inside. This year's shortlists feature a mixed bunch of protagonists and subjects, but showcase the very best. I think this is a great testament to the broad scope of crime writing in this country, but the fundamental elements remain: the crime, the investigation, the resolution, and the ticking of the clock. It may not be tidy, it's often not nice, it can be bloody, but justice is usually done. Those of us who read crime fiction and true crime stories appreciate these efforts because we take pleasure in the detail, and we love seeing the patterns behind the details, the fierce mental energy we need to expose the lies and resolve the contradictions and pull off the fake beards and interrogate witnesses. We also know that most modern crime stories are more than just mysteries. They are laden with information, environments, politics and law, and much more. Crime stories allow us to escape from our daily lives and also provide us reassurance that we can cope with our daily lives. They show us the best and worst of human nature and allow us to question how we would react in that situation. Author Sue Grafton once summed it up, saying, "A crime story is more than a novel, more than a compelling account of people whose fate engages us. The mystery is a means by which we can explore vicariously the perplexing questions of crime, guilt, innocence, violence, and justice." So consider yourself warned. Before you begin digging up the bodies, our secrets are now yours. And remember what Stephen King said when he was once asked why he wrote such gruesome stories. He said, "Why do you assume I have a choice?" Welcome. Before we launch into the awards, I'd like to introduce Robert Goodman, who is the chair of the Australian Crime Writers Association. Robert is one of Australia's most respected crime reviewers whose reviews have appeared in The Blurb, Newtown Review of Books, Australian Public Sector News, Aurealis and Verity La. He became a judge of the Ned Kelly Awards in 2008 and judged across a number of categories until 2015 when he joined the committee. And this year he became the chair. What Robert has done has forged much closer links between the Australian Crime Writers Association and sister organisations in other parts of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Robert Goodman.
Thank you, Michael. On behalf of the Australian Crime Writers Association, I'd like to welcome everyone to this year's Ned Kelly Awards, our annual celebration of the best in Australian crime writing, both fiction and non-fiction. I don't need to tell you what a strange year it's been in Australia and across the world, but throughout that year there have been a few constants, and one of those constants is books. Books help us make sense of the world, but they also allow us to escape, to step into other worlds and to travel, at least in our minds. And that is especially true of crime writing. True crime helps us to understand the world around us. It creates a narrative out of events that may have previously seemed incomprehensible. Crime fiction repackages our reality. It presents mysteries to engage us. It often presents satisfying resolutions to those mysteries. And it asks us to identify with characters facing moral and ethical quandaries. Writing itself is a solitary art. While many of us were forced to move to working from home this year, most of Australia's crime writers, I imagine, looked up from their desks, or in Michael's case, out of the window of his cabana, and wondered what all the fuss was about. But we were all affected. Authors were prevented from travelling and meeting with their readers. Publication dates were pushed out, bookshops had to find new ways of connecting with their customers, and writers' festivals were cancelled or had to go online. We have all had to adapt, and that also goes for the Ned Kelly Awards. The Ned Kelly Awards for Australian crime writing started as an idea thrown around in a pub 26 years ago. In those first few years, there are only a handful of entries in each category, although some of those early winners have gone on to become stalwarts of the Australian crime scene, names like Barry Maitland, Peter Temple, Gabriel Lord, Helen Garner and John Sylvester. 26 years later, and as Michael has said, the Australian crime scene is booming, both at home and overseas. This year we had close to 80 entries across our 3 local awards, including another crop of exciting new Australian crime writers. So the Ned Kelly shortlists are only the tip of a huge iceberg that is the vibrant and diverse Australian crime writing scene. I'd particularly like to thank our panel of judges, some of whom you'll be hearing from, who gave their time, knowledge and expertise to ensuring that we're able to showcase the very best Australian and international crime writing. As Michael mentioned, this year we've added a new category to the Ned Kelly Awards. The award for Best International Crime Fiction recognises the reach and impact of the crime genre to Australian readers. And there is so much great international crime writing to explore, from morally ambiguous Scandi noir to old-timers solving cosy British village mysteries, to hard-boiled American detectives or feisty Indian lawyers or philosophical Japanese policemen. From this year, this award will be our opportunity to acknowledge and celebrate the best of international crime published in Australia. The Ned Kelly Awards were first presented in a pub, and the awards have a long tradition of nightclub-style events. But now we enter a new age, and for the first time, the Ned Kelly Awards are being presented online and to the world. This may make us a little more formal than we used to, but we're glad to have you all here. And if you do want to capture that traditional Ned Kelly Awards vibe, I suggest you turn down the lights and grab yourself a drink. I'd like to thank everyone who's joined us for this event: writers, publishers, editors, booksellers, and readers. The industry thrives and continues to grow because of your enthusiasm and passion. I particularly want to acknowledge our sponsor, Booktopia. Booktopia has supported us since 2018 and continues to ensure that we're able to run and promote these awards. Especially during the lockdown, Booktopia's ability to keep up the supply of books has been a lifeline for many. And among its many genres, Booktopia is proud to promote and celebrate Australian crime writing and Australian crime authors. I want to thank our MC, Michael Robotham, former chair of the Australian Crime Writers Association, former winner of the Ned Kelly Awards, among many of the awards he's won for his body of work, and always a fierce advocate for Australian crime writing. I would also like to acknowledge the work and dedication of my fellow members of the Australian Crime Writers Association Committee. The committee is a fairly disparate group of volunteers, a bunch of critics, writers and academics scattered across the country. Organising these awards takes a lot of behind-the-scenes wrangling and administration, and the committee members contribute their time and expertise to making it happen. The Ned Kelly Awards actually used to be the one excuse in the year for the committee members to meet in person and celebrate together, but like everyone else this year, we'll be doing our celebrating on Zoom. And finally, I'd like to congratulate all of the shortlisted authors and all of the winners of tonight's awards. They are the pinnacle of yet another exceptional year of new Australian and international crime writing. And now I'll hand you back to Michael. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. The first award to be presented is for the best debut crime fiction. Now, we all have to start somewhere, and although people like calling me a veteran, I still feel as though I am only just starting my career. I remember vividly when my first novel was published in 2004. The elation, the trepidation, the vindication. All of that hard work, all of those rewrites, all the doubts, all those dreams. Now I could call myself an author. I also remember Peter Temple giving this award out many years ago and congratulating the shortlisted authors, but reminding them that for all his awards and all his plaudits, he had caught the train from Ballarat. This award is being presented by Catherine de Pellew-Manager, a crime fiction addict since the age of 10 when she discovered Agatha Christie on her mother's bookshelf. Catherine is now the artistic director of the Bad Sydney Crime Writing Festival. She is the co-founder of the St Albans Writers Festival and has facilitated sessions in many, many other festivals. I'll hand you over to Catherine to announce the winner of the Best Debut Crime Fiction.
Good evening. My name is Catherine de Pellew-Manager, and I'll be presenting the 2020 Ned Kelly Awards for Best Debut Crime Fiction this evening. My fellow judges and I have had a bumper crop of new books and debut writers to read and to assess. We're very lucky. It's hard work, but we've had a lot of fun along the way. I'm now going to get to our shortlist, and we'll do that in alphabetical order. Our first book is by Natalie Cognier. Present Tense is the title, and it's published by Clandestine Press. Set in Cape Town, Present Tense explores the politics of present-day South Africa through the eyes of a veteran police officer with a complex, complicated past. It has a great setting. This book has many flawed characters, a taut and complex plot with many twists and turns. Our second book is 8 Lives by Susan Hurley, published by Affirm Press. 8 Lives is a tense and highly readable medical thriller, also highly topical, although it doesn't deal directly with the coronavirus. It explores the after effects of a medical trial that goes wrong and leads to the mysterious death of the man leading the trial. Where the Truth Lies by Karina Kilmore, published by Simon & Schuster, Australia, takes place against the backdrop of a changing newspaper industry. It follows an investigative journalist fleeing a troubled past as she gets more than she bargains for when chasing a story on the docks of Melbourne. An interesting new setting and a great read with excellent twists. The Nancys by R.W.R. MacDonald is published by Allen and Unwin. The Nancys is a thoroughly enjoyable and very humorous book, full of quirky characters and a love both of New Zealand and of Nancy Drew, told by an 11-year-old girl, desperate for a mystery to solve. 6 Minutes by Petronella McGovern is published by Allen and Unwin. It's an unput-downable read with lots of twists and turns about the nightmare scenario of a missing child. Lapse by Sarah Thornton is published by Text Publishing. Stylish, confident debut by Sarah Thornton with well-drawn characters and compelling writing. Lapse reveals the impact of one woman's lapse in concentration. And the winner of the Best Debut Crime Novel for 2020 is Natalie Cognier with Present Tense. Congratulations to Natalie and to Clandestine Press. A very well-deserved win.
Thank you so much. I am thrilled and honoured and frankly a little stunned to receive this award. So thank you. Thank you, Catherine, for presenting. Thank you to the judges and to the Crime Writers Association of Australia. To belong to the crime writing community is a terrific thing. It's a supportive, interesting, slightly demented community. It's my tribe, and I'm just happy to be part of it. So I fell in love with crime writing when I was a child, and I've been reading it all my life. And I write crime because I like writing within conventions. I like seeing how far I can go with conventions. I like working out how to experiment with them, how far I can take them, and how I can use them to find out what's going on in the world around me. And so when it came to South Africa and trying to think about what was happening there now, crime fiction became the obvious choice for me to explore it, and that's how Present Tense, the book Present Tense, came about. And I want to thank the people who were with me along the way. Thanks to Gail Jones, who championed the book at an early stage, and thanks to my excellent agent, Jane Novak, and my equally excellent publisher, Lindy Cameron of Clandestine Press. And thanks to the early readers who gave me feedback and helped me and supported me in keeping going. And most of all, thanks to my family and friends who have put up with 3 years of daily whinges. And I'm writing another book, so it's not going to stop anytime soon. Making it to the Neddies is a very big deal. Congratulations to my fellow shortlisters, and what can I say? Again, thank you. I'm gobsmacked to have got this.
Thank you, Catherine, and congratulations, Natalie. The next award is for Best True Crime. This is an area that fascinates me because I began my writing career as a journalist, working on the old Sydney Sun, an afternoon newspaper where the bread and butter of each day's news was made up of crime stories and court reports. I spent 12 months doing the night shift, working from midnight till dawn, covering murders, suicide, kidnappings, bombings, prison escapes, missing children, accidents and assaults. I still draw on those experiences today when I write. This year's shortlist shows all the diversity you would expect when it comes to the darker side of human nature, from underworld murders to endemic racism to addiction and a throwback to the past. A case that captivated the nation when a captured shark coughed up a human arm. The presenter of the Best True Crime Award needs no introduction. I know that's a cliche. But for nearly 50 years, Laurie Oakes reported on Australian politics out of Canberra in television and in print. Known for his many scoops, his incisive columns and his understanding of politics, he was a giant in Australian political journalism. He retired 3 years ago, and it gave him more time for his other great passion, which is reading about crime, whether it be fiction or non-fiction. Logically, he was the man we had to ask to present this award. He's a patron of the Bad Sydney Writing Festival. I'll hand it over to you, Laurie. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Laurie Oakes, and I was one of the judges for this year's Best True Crime Award. It's a job that gave me a lot of pleasure, and it was made more enjoyable by the insights and the knowledge of my fellow judges, Meg Van and Christina Lee. I think Meg and Christina would agree with me that true crime writing in Australia just gets better and better. Our shortlist for 2020 is Bowraville by Dan Box, published by Penguin Random House Australia. This is an important story about the murder of 3 Aboriginal children in the same small town. It addresses themes of endemic racism and justice, Black Lives Matter before that was a slogan, if you like. The book also deals with the ethics of true crime reporting. Dead Man Walking, The Murky World of Michael McGurk and Ron Medich by Kate McClymont, published by Penguin Random House Australia. Dead Man Walking is a very Sydney story of corruption and murder, with a cast of colourful characters that any crime fiction writer would be proud to have created. It's well told with remarkable detail. Shark Arm by Philip Roop and Kevin Marr, published by Allen and Unwin. A huge tiger shark caught by fishermen and put on display in a Sydney aquarium vomits up a human arm with a distinctive tattoo. It was the start of one of Australia's strangest and most fascinating murder mysteries. Because it happened 85 years ago, the shark arm case is almost forgotten, but Roop and Ma revive it with new research and powerful writing, capturing in the process a 1930s Sydney rife with smuggling and police corruption. Finally, Snakes and Ladders by Angela Williams, published by Affirm Press. Snakes and Ladders is the absorbing story of a woman who sorts out her life after teenage years of addiction, petty crime, and a brief jail sentence. Becomes a responsible parent and university-educated upright citizen, only to find herself back behind bars because of an administrative stuff-up. How she handles that tells us much about the author and a great deal about the prison and parole system. So, without further ado, the result. The winner of the 2020 Ned Kelly Award for Best True Crime is Bowraville by Dan Box. Congratulations to Dan and to Penguin Random House Australia.
I just wanted to say thank you for this award, not just for the recognition itself, but because I'm well aware that this award means being part of something bigger. To be on a shortlist that included Kate, Philip, Kevin and Angela was more than I could have hoped for, and to now be on a list of past winners that includes people like Gideon Hay, Helen Garner, Chloe Hooper is more than I could ever have imagined. And finally, thank you also for reading the story of the Bowraville mob. It's a story that needs to be told, and it's a story that I'm sure is not yet over.
Thank you, Laurie, and congratulations to Dan. The next award is our new one, Best International Crime Fiction. As I mentioned earlier, the rise and rise of Australian crime writing is unstoppable, but we also love reading the best the world has to offer. And that's the beauty of being a crime reader. One week we can be on the mean streets of Los Angeles with Harry Bosch, or in the back alleys of Edinburgh with John Rebus, or in the canals of Venice with Commissario Brunetti. The presenter of this award is Sarah McDulling, the category manager of Booktopia, which is a major sponsor of the Neddies. Sarah has been reviewing books for Booktopia for nearly 10 years, and crime is one of her favourite genres to read and to review. Over to you, Sarah, to introduce the shortlist and announce the winner.
Good evening. I'm Sarah McDulling from Booktopia, and I will be presenting the inaugural Ned Kelly Award for Best International Crime Fiction. Booktopia is proud to support the Ned Kelly Awards, and my fellow judges and I were super excited to be invited to judge this inaugural award. We are very lucky to have so much great crime fiction from all over the world to read, and now there is a Ned Kelly Award to celebrate that fact. The shortlist for the Best International Crime Fiction is Cruel Acts by Jane Casey, published by HarperCollins Australia. The 8th in the Maeve Kerrigan series, Cruel Acts is another example of Dublin writer Jane Casey's evocative and compulsive writing. When a convicted killer is released on a technicality, Kerrigan and her partner Derwent work to put him back behind bars. The Nightfire by Michael Connolly, published by Allen and Unwin. In The Nightfire, Harry Bosch and Renee Ballard team up to investigate a cold case. Connolly is always a pleasure to read and effortlessly keeps readers hooked with his enigmatic characters and intertwined subplots. The Chain by Adrienne McKinty, published by Hachette Australia. A wild rollercoaster ride of a read, The Chain is a gripping and original thriller about an unbroken chain of child kidnappings. The Last Widow by Karen Slaughter, published by HarperCollins Australia. The Last Widow is a great addition to the Trent and Linton series. It is an intense and wholly absorbing conspiracy thriller by a renowned and accomplished writer. And the winner of the 2020 Ned Kelly Award for Best International Crime Fiction is The Chain by Adrienne McKinty. Congratulations to Adrienne and to Hachette Australia.
And the winner of the 2020 Ned Kelly Award goes to Adrienne McKinty.
Thank you so much for this Ned Kelly Award for the international fiction. And as you can see, the Ned Kelly handily doubles as a bottle opener. This is an Australian book. It was conceived in the playground of St Kilda Primary School while I was waiting for my daughters Arwen and Sophie, and about 90% of it was written in the local tap house in East St Kilda. So I want to thank Aqua, all the judges, everyone who read the book or voted for me for this wonderful award, and my agent Shane Salerno and Don Winslow and everyone at Hachette. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Sarah, and congratulations, Adrian. Adrian is a past winner and a favourite of Australia, having lived here for a number of years before relocating to New York. The chain has been a huge international success and the breakthrough book that we all knew was coming from Adrian. The final award is for Best Crime Fiction, and the list of former winners of this award reads like a who's who of the best practitioners of our craft. Peter Temple, Gary Disher, Jane Harper, Gabrielle Lord, Candice Fox. The list goes on. I remember being completely taken aback by the reaction when I won my first Neddy. Crime magazines and bloggers around the world published the news, and I suddenly realised that our humble little awards didn't deserve to be called humble. It was a big deal. To present the award for Best Crime Fiction, I'd like to welcome an old friend, Sue Turnbull. Sue is a Senior Professor of Communications and Media at the University of Wollongong. She's also Chief Crime Fiction Reviewer for the Sydney Morning Herald and The Age. A board member of the Bad Sydney Crime Writing Festival, she is the doyenne of Australian crime reviewers and, without a doubt, the most knowledgeable person I know when it comes to the crime genre. Please welcome Professor Sue Turnbull.
Good evening. I'm Sue Turnbull and I'm delighted to be presenting the 2020 Ned Kelly Awards for Best Crime Fiction. With my fellow judges, David Collins and Andrea Thompson, I had the daunting but enjoyable task of reading the incredible long list of crime novels published in 2019 in Australia. And I'd very much like to thank David and Andrea for their insights and camaraderie in this process. Thank you both. That was so much fun. But now to the shortlist for the Best Crime Fiction Award. There are 6 books, and we've organised this in alphabetical order of the authors' names. So first we have The Strangers We Know by Pip Drysdale, published by Simon & Schuster, Australia. And the judges said, The Strangers We Know keeps the reader glued to the page as one woman searches for the truth about her husband. This is a well-paced read with a breathtaking finish. Next, Death of a Typographer by Nick Gadd, published by Australian Scholarly Publishing. This is quirky, funny, and thoroughly Melbourne. Death of a Typographer is about murder and the mysterious power of fonts. You'll never be able to look at a billboard again in quite the same way. And I discovered that my favourite font is Garamond. Number 3, The Scholar by Dervla McTiernan, published by Harlequin Enterprises Australia. We were delighted to see Cormac Riley back in The Scholar, which is an elegant and tightly constructed read with depth and excellent characterisation. Number 4, River of Salt by Dave Warner, published by Fremantle Press. River of Salt follows a hitman who flees Philadelphia for coastal Australia, where he reinvents himself as a bar owner. With charismatic and compelling characters, this is a lovely evocation of the Australian surf scene in the early 60s. Next, True West by David Wish Wilson, published by Fremantle Press. True West is a white-knuckle read set in Western Australia in the late 1980s. The sense of time and place in this book is exquisite, and it's as noir as it gets. Last, but by no means least, The Wife and the Widow by Christian White, published by Affirm Press. Set in an atmospheric island town, The Wife and the Widow is a cleverly plotted thriller with an astonishing twist. I can say no more, except almost everyone I know who read it immediately went straight back to the beginning. And the winner of the 2020 Ned Kelly Award for Best Crime Fiction is, drumroll, The Wife and the Widow by Christian White. Congratulations to you, Christian, and to Affirm Press, and to all our winners tonight. Well done.
Hello. I cannot tell you how honoured and thrilled I am to receive this award. I was shocked to be shortlisted, to be honest, alongside all these other amazing authors. So to win just feels like a mistake, really. It feels like an admin error. That's what I always worry about with these things. But, you've announced it now, so no take-backs. I'd like to thank everyone who makes the Ned Kellys possible. You guys always do an amazing job, but this year has been particularly weird and challenging, and you guys have killed it. I want to thank my publishers, Affirm Press, who over the last few years have really become like a warm little family. I'm going to single out Martin Hughes and Kieran Rogers, who are the sweet gay dads of that family. I want to thank my agents at RGM, Jen Norton and Candice Tom. You guys are amazing. I want to thank, last but not least, my wife, Summer DeRoche, who, along with filming this acceptance speech, has helped me so much, not just in the writing of The Wife and the Widow, but with life in general. And she also told me how the book should end, so really she gets a lot of credit. It's been a weird year this year, so I look forward to catching up with you all in real life very soon. I've got a champagne, even though it's about 10 on a Monday morning, but cheers.
Thank you, Sue, and congratulations to Christian. Well, that wraps up this year's Ned Kelly Awards, our first online. Hopefully next year we'll be doing it in a brilliant bar and pub like we normally do, with a huge crowd and live music. I know there are very few silver linings in an international pandemic, but a small one can be found in current book sales and how many people have rediscovered the joys of reading. I want to congratulate not just the winners, but also every author who made the shortlist, and every author that had a book published in the last year. I want to thank the committee of the Australian Crime Writers Association and the sponsors Booktopia, who have been such wonderful supporters. And finally, I'd like to thank you, the readers. Without you, we wouldn't be here. Storytellers need an audience. When I hear somebody say they don't like reading or they can't get into books, it's like them saying they don't like sex. They're just not doing it right. The right book in the right hands will bring them back into the fold. So don't just read for your own pleasure. Spread the word. There is nothing better than having a friend come back to you and say, "Wow, I love that book. What else do you recommend?" A question like that gives you that warm, wet, fuzzy feeling. It's like weeing into a wetsuit. Happy reading. Until next year, and stay safe.